The zipper snagged at my ribcage, and I froze, holding my breath like the dress could hear me panicking. "Martin," my mom called from downstairs, too bright, too practiced. "We're almost ready, just take your time." "Take your time," she said, as if time had ever been gentle in this house. I stared at myself in the mirror with the kind of focus you give a ticking sound in a quiet room. A tall guy with a nervous jawline and a messy curl that never stayed put, now half trapped in my twin sister's pale blue dress. The fabric was older than it looked, soft in a way clothes only get after surviving a lot of hands and a lot of laundry. The neckline sat where it was meant to sit on Maris, not on me, and the waist came in like a suggestion I had never been expected to meet. I pulled the zipper down a centimeter, tried again, and this time, it slid up with a quiet, decisive shh. The sound made my stomach drop anyway. I looked like a lie someone told carefully. Not a cruel lie, worse, a sentimental one. The portrait we were reenacting had been taken 20 years ago, when my parents were new and proud and determined to be the kind of family that filled frames on walls. In the original, my mom and dad sat on a bench in our living room, their shoulders angled toward each other, like magnets. My sister and I were 5, standing in front of them. I wore a tiny suit with short pants and suspenders. Maris wore this dress, her hair in 2 neat braids, a faint smile on her face that always made strangers say, "She looks like the easy one." That line always made Maris laugh later. Then she'd look at me and say, "You're the easy one. I'm just quiet." We weren't quiet today. The bench was still downstairs, dragged out of storage like a relic. My dad had polished the wood with a kind of stubborn respect, as if the bench deserved apologies for being forgotten. Mom had pulled the same cream curtain over the window to get the light just like before. Her words, her voice careful, like she was afraid the room itself might argue. And Maris, the girl in the dress, wasn't here. She'd left 3 days ago after the phone call. I'd been in the kitchen when her voice rose, sharp and tired. "No," I said, "no, I can't do it. I can't be that picture again." There was a pause, then my mom's tone, softer but tighter. "It's just one photo, Maris." "It was never just one photo," my sister snapped, and then the front door slammed hard enough to shake the glass in the cabinet. She didn't take the dress. Mom had found it in Maris's old closet anyway, folded in a plastic bin like a secret. She'd carried it downstairs with both hands and set it on the table as if it had weight, as if it might bruise the wood. Dad had said nothing at first. That's his thing. He holds his opinions in his chest until they turn into something sharp. I'd been the one to speak because silence in our house always turned into a weapon. "So what now?" I asked, trying to sound practical. Mom's eyes had flicked up, too quick. "We still do it." Dad finally cleared his throat. "Your sister will come around." Mom pressed her lips together. "She won't. Not in time. The photographer is booked. The frame is already ordered. We told the family." I'd laughed once, a short, ugly sound that didn't match anything in me. "So the frame is more important than Maris." "That's not what I mean," Mom said, instantly wounded. Dad's hands clenched and unclenched. "We're not canceling. This was your mother's idea, and she wants it. We do things as a family." That word, family. The way my dad said it made it sound like a rule, not a relationship. Mom's gaze dropped to the dress, then rose back up to me. There was a beat where she didn't say anything, and I swear I could hear her doing math. "Martin," she began, and my name sounded strange in her mouth, like she was testing it. I already knew before she asked. I hated that I knew. "No," I said automatically. Dad's eyebrows went up. "No what?" Mom's voice stayed gentle, too gentle. "Just think about it. Just for the photo." The room went colder, not in temperature. In meaning. I looked at the dress again, the blue fabric, the tiny decorative buttons, the faint crease at the hem where Maris had stepped on it once as a kid and cried because Mom yelled. That memory flashed bright and petty, like my brain was grabbing anything to avoid the bigger thing. You want me to wear it? I said. Dad barked a laugh like it was ridiculous. It's clothing. It's my sister's clothing, I shot back. Mom leaned forward. She's your twin, Martin. You're the closest thing. The photo is it's about us. It's about where we started. Where you started, I corrected before I could stop myself. Her face tightened, and I instantly felt cruel. That's the problem with being the one who talks. You hurt people faster. Dad stood up, chair scraping. This is dramatic. No one is asking you to become someone else. It's a reenactment. That's literally what you're asking, I said, and my voice cracked. I hated that. I hated giving them proof that this mattered to me. Mom reached out, palm up, like she was asking me to hand her something invisible. Please, just help us. Help me. That was the moment, right there, that made me agree. Not the logic, not the bench, not the ordered frame. Her voice. Because Mom didn't ask for help often, not without wrapping it in jokes or errands or, can you just... She asked for help like she was afraid of being told she didn't deserve it. I swallowed and said, fine, for the photo. Dad exhaled like he'd won. Good, that's settled. Mom's eyes shone with relief, and that relief made me angry all over again because it felt too easy for her, like she hadn't considered the cost on my side of the table. Now I was upstairs, trapped halfway between my own body and the shape my family wanted me to fill. I smoothed the fabric down with my palms, awkward. My hands looked wrong against it, too big, too obvious. The mirror caught my face, dark brows, a stubborn nose, a faint scar near my chin from falling off my bike at 13. I looked like myself wearing evidence. Some part of me wanted to laugh the way my dad had. It's clothing. It's just fabric. People wear costumes all the time. But this wasn't a party. This wasn't theater. This was my parents trying to rewind something and using my skin as the tape. I heard footsteps in the hallway and tensed. My dad knocked once, a perfunctory sound. You decent? Define decent, I muttered, then regretted it. He opened the door anyway because my dad doesn't ask permission when he thinks he's right. He stepped in, took one look at me, and stopped. For a second, he didn't speak. His eyes flicked over the dress, the way it fit, the way it didn't. His jaw worked, and I braced for a joke or a complaint, something that would let him put distance between himself and discomfort. Instead, he said quietly, "It's not as strange as I thought." That made it worse. "You're welcome," I said flatly. He cleared his throat and walked closer, stopping behind me. In the mirror, I saw him as he leaned in, studying the zipper line, like he could will it to look normal. "You look like her," he said, then added quickly, "From far away." I stared at him. Is that supposed to help? "It's supposed to be true," he snapped, defensive. Then, softer, "We're just trying to make something right." I turned slightly. "What are you trying to fix?" Dad's eyes narrowed. "Don't start." "I didn't start anything," I said, voice rising. "Maris left because of you two. Because you keep trying to make us into a picture." Dad's face flushed. "That picture is our family." "That picture is a moment," I said, "and you've been living in it like it's a house." He looked away, jaw tight. He hated emotional language, like it was a mess someone expected him to clean. From downstairs, Mom called, "Gerard, are you helping him?" Dad's shoulders lifted and fell. "Yes, we're coming." He hesitated, then reached out and tugged the fabric at my shoulder, straightening it. The gesture was small, almost tender, and it shocked me more than his anger ever did. "Don't slouch," he said. "If you're doing it, do it properly." There it was, the family motto, in different words. Do it properly. He left the room, footsteps heavy down the stairs. I stood there alone again, my reflection breathing too fast. I should have been furious. I was furious, but under it, there was something else, something I didn't want to name because naming it would make it real. Curiosity. Not about being Maris. About being seen. I'd spent my whole life in the Martin slot. The boy twin. The one my dad expected to be sturdy. The one my mom expected to be easygoing. I had learned early that if you make yourself convenient, people don't look too closely. You become background. You become the reliable prop in other people's stories. Now I was wearing a dress and everyone was going to look. I grabbed my phone off the dresser and stared at Maris's contact photo. It was a candid shot of her laughing, hair messy, eyes bright, holding a coffee like it was a microphone. She'd hated the original portrait because her smile in it looked like a tiny trapped thing. I typed, "You coming back?" I watched the little typing bubble appear and disappear twice without a message. My stomach twisted. Finally, no. I swallowed. I typed, "We're doing it anyway." 3 dots, then, "Of course you are." I typed, "They asked me to wear the dress." Nothing for a full minute. Then, "They did not." I typed, "They did." I said yes. There was a pause long enough that I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then, "Why would you say yes?" I stared at the screen because Mom sounded like she was drowning, because Dad made it a rule, because I'm tired of being the problem, because I'm tired of you being the problem, because I want them to stop looking at the empty space where you should be. I typed, because I didn't want them to freak out. Maris replied, "They are freaking out. They just call it tradition." I typed, "I'm already in it." Maris, "Take it off." I didn't. I couldn't, not because the zipper was stuck again, but because I had already agreed, and in our family, agreement is a contract. I typed, "Where are you?" Maris, "Don't." I typed, "I'm not trying to drag you back. I want to know you're okay." Maris, "I'm okay. I'm just tired of being their daughter on command." The words hit me like a shove. Their daughter on command. I looked at myself again in the dress. Me, their daughter on command, temporarily. I typed, "You think they see me as that?" Maris, "They see what they need. That's the problem." I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend them because that's also a habit, but I couldn't. Not honestly. Mom called again, closer now, footsteps on the stairs. "Martin, sweetheart?" Sweetheart, another word used when she wanted something. I typed quickly, "Can you at least talk to me after?" Maris, "I'm talking now." I typed, "In person." A pause. Then, "We'll see." Mom knocked, then opened the door carefully, as if she expected to find something fragile. She stepped in and her face softened immediately. "Oh." There it was again, relief mixed with something that looked like awe, like she was looking at a wish she'd never admit out loud. "You look," she began, then stopped, swallowing. "You look beautiful." The word landed wrong, not offensive exactly, just heavy. "I look like a hostage," I said, before I could filter it. Mom's smile faltered. "Martin." "I'm sorry," I muttered, rubbing my forehead. This is weird." "It is," she admitted, and she came closer, hands hovering like she wanted to fix something but wasn't sure what. "But it's meaningful." "To you," I said. "To us," she corrected, and there was a flash of stubbornness that reminded me she wasn't only softness. She had steel under the floral. She reached out and adjusted the collar gently, fingers cool against my skin. "Your sister used to hate this dress." "I know," I said, voice quiet. Mom's eyes flicked up. "Do you?" I looked at her. "Yes," she told me, like 1,000 times. Mom's mouth tightened like she was holding back an argument. She hated a lot of things. That's not her fault. I didn't say it was, Mom snapped, then immediately softened again, guilt washing over her face. I didn't mean... I'm sorry. I miss when we were all in the same room and nobody was angry. I laughed once, sharp. Were we not angry, or did we just not say it? Mom flinched. Martin, please, not today. Today is literally about a picture, I said. You picked today. Her eyes glistened. I picked today because I thought it might bring her back. I stared at her. By replacing her? Mom's face went pale. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. That's not what this is. It kind of is. She shook her head, tears spilling now, but she wiped them away quickly like she was ashamed of them. No, it's not replacing, it's holding the place. Like a reserved seat, I said bitterly. Mom inhaled hard, and for a second, her voice dropped, raw. I don't know how to do this right. The honesty startled me more than anything else she'd said all week. I looked at her, really looked. Nina, my mom, in her late 40s, but still with the same bright eyes as the portrait, except now the brightness was forced half the time. She wore a cream blouse and a skirt, hair pinned back carefully, lipstick applied with precision like it was armor. She had been planning this photo like it was a rescue mission. I exhaled. I don't know either. Mom nodded, swallowing. Okay. Then we'll just do it. We'll get through it. And then we'll figure it out. Her version of figuring it out, historically, meant ignoring the wreckage and calling it character. But I nodded anyway because Dad was downstairs and the photographer would be here any minute, and my family did not do last-minute changes without someone bleeding. We went downstairs together, my footsteps careful on the stairs. The dress brushed my legs in a way that kept surprising me, like a constant reminder that my body was wrapped in someone else's memory. Dad stood by the bench in a button-up shirt, hair combed, jaw set. He looked at Mom, then at me, and gave a single nod like I was a worker reporting to a job. Shoes, he said, pointing at my feet. You can't be barefoot. Mom looked panicked. Maris's heels won't fit him. No heels, I said quickly. Absolutely not. Dad's mouth twitched like he was about to argue, then he shrugged. Fine, flats. Mom rushed to a box and pulled out simple black flats. They were Maris's too, but at least they weren't ridiculous. I slipped them on, tight but manageable. Dad stepped back, arms crossed. The photographer will be here in 10. Mom's hands fluttered. Lighting, Gerard, we need the curtain closed a bit more. Dad grunted and adjusted it, then turned to me again, eyes narrowing. Stand like you mean it. I stared at him. What does that even mean? It means don't look ashamed, he said, sharp. The irony almost made me choke. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Mom jumped like she'd been shocked. Dad straightened, shoulders square. I felt my stomach drop again. The photographer, a woman named Elska, stepped inside, with a rolling case and a calm expression like she'd seen every kind of family tension and knew it wasn't her job to fix it. Hi, she said warmly. I'm Elska. You must be Gerard and Nina. Dad shook her hand. Mom smiled too wide. Elska's gaze flicked to me and she paused just a fraction of a second. Not judgment, not surprise exactly, just recognition that something here was not as advertised. And you must be, she began. Martin, I said, I'm filling in. Elska nodded smoothly. Okay, thanks for telling me. We'll make it work. Her calmness made my throat tighten. It was weirdly kind, the way she didn't make a big deal, like she was offering me a normal moment in the middle of my family's staged one. She began setting up, moving with practiced efficiency, adjusting her tripod, checking angles. Mom hovered, trying to help. Dad stayed rigid, watching like a supervisor. Elska glanced at the old portrait propped on the mantel. This is what we're recreating? Mom's face softened. Yes, exactly. Elska studied it for a long beat. It's a beautiful photo. Dad's voice was clipped. We want it as close as possible. Elska smiled politely. We can do close. We can also do honest. Dad stiffened. Honest? Elska didn't flinch. Sometimes the closest reenactment is the one that acknowledges time has passed. Mom's fingers tightened around the edge of her skirt. We just want it like before. Elska nodded. Understood. Let's start there. She guided us into position. Mom sat on the bench first, posture stiff, hands folded. Dad sat beside her, knee angled slightly outward like in the original. I stepped forward, standing where Maris had stood, my hands hanging awkwardly because I didn't know what to do with them. Elska adjusted my shoulders, chin slightly down, soft eyes. Soft eyes. Like I was supposed to look gentle, like I was supposed to belong in this dress. Dad muttered, stand up straight. Mom hissed, Gerard. Elska raised a hand gently. I've got it. She stepped behind the camera. Okay, Nina, look at Gerard. Gerard, look at Nina. Martin, look at me. I looked into the lens and felt exposed. The dress, the bench, the curtain, all of it was trying to make me into a version of my sister that would soothe my parents. Elska clicked a few test shots. The sound was clean, sharp. Each click felt like a decision being recorded. Smile, Mom whispered urgently, eyes still fixed on Dad. I tried. It came out wrong, tight and forced. Elska paused. Martin, you don't have to smile if it doesn't feel right. Dad's head snapped toward her. In the original, he smiled. Elska's gaze stayed calm. In the original, he was 5. Dad looked like he wanted to argue but didn't know how without sounding ridiculous. Elska turned back to me. Breathe. Think about something real. Something real. Not the portrait, not the dress, not the reserved seat. I thought about Maris's laugh in her contact photo. I thought about her leaving the house with her backpack slung over one shoulder, not looking back because she knew if she looked back she might weaken. I felt my eyes sting. Elska clicked again. That. Hold that. Mom's voice trembled. Martin, no tears, please. I swallowed hard. Why not? Because, Mom began, and she stopped, like she'd realized she didn't have a good answer that didn't involve admitting what this was really about. Dad's jaw tightened. Because this is supposed to be a happy memory. It wasn't always happy, I said, my voice low but steady now. You just framed it that way. Silence hit the room like a dropped plate. Elska's fingers hovered over the shutter. She didn't move. She didn't leave. She just waited, calm as a witness. Mom's eyes flashed to me, then away. Martin, please. Not in front of her. Why? I asked. Because you want her to think we're normal? Dad's voice rose. We are normal. I laughed again, but this time it was bitter and tired. Normal families don't replace their daughter with their son in a dress because they can't handle disappointment. Mom's face crumpled. Stop. Dad stood up so fast the bench creaked. You're being ungrateful. Ungrateful, I echoed. For what? For being used? Mom's hands shook. Martin, I asked you because I thought you would understand. Because you're kind. The word kind made my stomach twist. Kind was what they called me when they needed me to fold. I am kind, I said, voice breaking. But I'm not a prop. Elska cleared her throat gently. Do you want me to step out for a moment? Dad snapped. No, Mom whispered. Yes. Elska nodded once. I'll give you 5 minutes. I'll be in the hall. She walked out, closing the door softly behind her, leaving us in the staged light and the silence that always did the most damage. Dad turned to me, eyes blazing. "What the hell are you doing?" "What you asked," I said. "I'm wearing the dress. I showed up, but I'm not going to pretend this is fine." Dad's hands were fists. "This was supposed to bring your sister back." "You can't trick her into coming home," I said. "She's not a dog." Mom flinched at the word dog, maybe because she heard how ugly it sounded, how desperate. Dad's voice dropped, dangerous. "Watch your mouth." Mom's voice was thin. "Gerard, please." Dad spun on her. "Don't please me. This is because you coddled them, both of them. Always feelings, always drama." Mom's eyes flashed. "I didn't coddle. I tried to listen." Dad scoffed. "And where did listening get us? Our daughter ran away and our son is upstairs playing dress-up." "Don't call it that," I said, sharp. Dad's gaze snapped to me. "What should I call it?" I took a breath. The fabric of the dress rose and fell with my chest, and I hated how aware I was of it. Not because it felt wrong, but because it felt like a spotlight. "Call it what it is," I said. "It's you trying to control the story." Dad's face hardened. "I'm trying to keep this family together." "No," I said quietly. "You're trying to keep it predictable." Mom's shoulders sagged like the words hit her too, because she knew they were true. Dad stared at me, and for a second, I saw confusion under his anger, like he genuinely didn't understand why this mattered so much. "You think I don't know what people will say?" he demanded. "When they see this? When the family sees you in a dress?" My throat tightened. So that was it. Not just nostalgia. Fear. "They won't see it unless you show them," I said. Dad's laugh was sharp. "It's a photo, Martin. It's meant to be seen." Mom whispered, "Gerard." Dad pointed at me, hand shaking. "Do you know how hard it was to build respect, to be taken seriously? I'm not letting some statement ruin that." "It's not a statement," I said, and I surprised myself by believing it. "It's a picture, and if a dress ruins your respect, you never had real respect." Dad's face went red. "You don't know anything." "Maybe not," I said, "but I know Maris didn't leave because she hates you. She left because she's tired of being managed." Mom's eyes filled again. "She didn't even tell me where she went." "She told me she's okay," I said, then realized what I'd revealed. Mom's head snapped up. "You've talked to her?" "Yes," I admitted. "She's angry. She's tired. She said she's tired of being your daughter on command." Mom's mouth opened, closed. Pain crossed her face. "I never meant," Dad cut in, voice harsh. "That's not what we did." I looked at him. "Then why does it feel like it to her?" He had no answer, only his jaw grinding. Mom rubbed her forehead, breath shaky. "What do we do?" I looked at the old portrait on the mantel again, the tiny version of us trapped in that perfect moment. Maris's faint smile, my stiff grin, Dad looking proud, Mom looking hopeful. "We tell the truth," I said, before I could overthink it. Dad scoffed. "Truth? Like airing our dirty laundry?" "Truth like acknowledging she's not here," I said. "Truth like not pretending this is the same family as 20 years ago." Mom whispered, "But the point was to show we're still us." "We are still us," I said. "And us right now is messy. It's missing her. It's me in her dress, because you couldn't handle canceling." Mom flinched again. Dad glared. I took a breath. "If you want a photo that brings her back, maybe make one she can stand to look at." Dad's voice was low. "And what does that look like?" I swallowed. "It looks like us. Not a reenactment. Not a performance. Just us." Mom stared at me like I'd suggested tearing down the house. But the dress... I looked down at it, the blue fabric, the quiet weight. The dress is already part of this. It's the truth. Dad's nostrils flared. I won't hang a photo of my son in a dress on the wall like some joke. It's not a joke, I said, voice steady. And it's not shameful unless you make it shameful. Mom's eyes moved between us, caught in the crossfire. The front hall creaked softly. Elska's voice drifted in, polite. How are we doing? Dad snapped, fine. Mom whispered, not fine. Elska stepped back into the room, reading the air instantly. Okay. Dad stared at her like she was the enemy. We're doing the original. Elska looked at Mom, then at me. Is that what everyone wants? Silence again, the kind where you can hear the truth hovering. Mom's voice trembled. I wanted my daughter back. Elska nodded gently. I understand. Dad snapped, this isn't therapy. Elska's expression stayed calm. It's photography, but photography does something similar whether you like it or not. It records what's real. Dad's eyes narrowed. So what? You want tears and drama? Elska shrugged lightly. I want the image you'll still want to look at in 10 years. The one that doesn't make anyone feel erased. The word erased hit me hard. Mom swallowed, shoulders shaking. Maris feels erased. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it, like his anger had finally hit a wall he couldn't punch through. Elska turned to me. Martin, do you want to keep the dress on? My throat tightened. I hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes. Mom's eyes widened slightly. Elska nodded. Okay, then we'll use it honestly. Dad's voice was sharp. And how do you propose we do that? Elska glanced at the mantle again, then pointed. Let's include the original photo in the new one. That's the story. Then we're not pretending the past is the present. We're acknowledging it. Mom's eyes flicked to the mantle. You mean like holding it? Elska nodded. Yes. Nina, you hold it. Gerard, you sit with her. Martin, you stand beside them, not in front like a child, but beside like an adult. And we leave space, not hidden, a visible space for Maris. Dad scoffed. A visible space. Elska met his eyes calmly. The visible space is already there. You've just been trying to cover it up. Dad's face tightened. He looked like he wanted to say no on instinct just because it was different. Mom whispered, Gerard. Dad's gaze darted to Mom's face. She looked like she might crumble, like she might actually break if he forced the old script one more time. Dad exhaled hard through his nose. Fine, he snapped. Do it. Elska moved quickly, like she knew hesitation could kill the moment. She repositioned the bench slightly, adjusted the curtain, stepped back. Mom sat, but this time she didn't angle her shoulders toward Dad like the original. She sat facing forward, the old photo in her hands, held at chest level. Her fingers gripped the frame too tight. Dad sat beside her, but his posture was less staged now, more like a man sitting with a problem he couldn't solve. Elska gestured to me. Martin, stand here. Closer. Yes, not rigid. You can put a hand on the bench if that helps. I placed my hand on the bench's backrest. The wood felt solid under my palm, grounding. Elska looked between us. Now leave a gap. Just a little. Not huge. A human-sized gap. Dad's jaw clenched, but he shifted slightly, creating space on the bench between him and Mom. The gap looked loud. Mom's eyes filled again as she stared at it. That's where she should be. Yes, I said quietly. Elska lifted her camera. Okay, now look at me. Not like you're posing. Like you're here. Mom looked into the lens, tears on her lashes, mouth pressed tight. Dad looked into the lens like he was daring the world to judge him. I looked into the lens and felt something settle in me, heavy and real. The dress stopped feeling like a costume for a second. It felt like a symbol of all the stupid, complicated love in this house. Love that didn't know how to behave. Elska clicked. The sound felt different this time. Not like a decision being forced, like a moment being witnessed. Elska lowered the camera slightly. Good. Again. We held the position. Mom's breath shook. Dad's hand twitched, like he wanted to reach for Mom but didn't know if he was allowed. Elska clicked again. Then she surprised us. Now, Nina, look at that old photo for a second. Mom's gaze dropped to the little framed portrait in her hands. Her lips parted, a small sound escaping, half laugh, half sob. Elska clicked. Gerard, Elska said gently. Look at Nina. Dad's eyes shifted to Mom, and something in his expression softened for a moment, raw and unguarded. Elska clicked. Martin, Elska said, look at the empty space. I looked at the gap on the bench and my throat tightened. I could see Maris there as a kid, braids neat, smile trapped. I could see her as she was now, stubborn and exhausted, refusing to be a prop. Elska clicked. A silence fell after, thick with what we'd just done. Mom wiped her cheeks quickly. Dad stared at the floor. I stood there in the dress, breathing slowly, feeling like my skin was both too tight and too awake. Elska lowered the camera fully. Okay, let's take a break. I'll check the shots. She moved to her laptop, the screen angled away from us. Mom stood up shakily, still holding the old portrait. She set it back on the mantel with reverence, then turned and pressed her fingers to her mouth like she was trying to stop herself from saying something that would ruin everything. Dad walked to the window, stared out as if the street could give him instructions. I pulled my phone out again, heart pounding, and typed to Maris. We changed it. We left your space. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then, what do you mean? I typed, we did the photo with the old photo included, and an empty space. And me in the dress, but not pretending I'm you. There was a long pause. Then, did they hate it? I glanced at Mom, who looked like she'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. I glanced at Dad, rigid at the window. I typed, they didn't love it, but they didn't stop it either. Maris. That sounds like them. I typed, it felt real. Maris. Real doesn't usually sell well in this family. I typed, please come home, not for them, for you, for me. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. My stomach twisted. Then, I'm nearby. My heart jumped. I typed, where? Maris, parked 2 streets over. I couldn't stop thinking about that stupid dress and that stupid bin. I swallowed, typed, you can come in. You don't have to be in the photo. Maris, I know. Then, is it still happening? I typed, Elska is checking shots. We might do more. Maris. Okay. A minute later, don't take it off yet. My fingers froze over the screen. I typed, why? Maris. Because I need to see it. Not because it's funny. Because I need to know how far they'll go to avoid looking at me. The words stung, but they were honest. I typed, okay. My hands were shaking. The doorbell rang again, a softer press this time, almost hesitant. Mom startled. Dad turned sharply from the window. Elska looked up from her laptop, expression neutral but attentive. Mom moved first, faster than I expected, like her body recognized the sound before her brain did. She opened the door. Maris stood there in a hoodie and jeans, hair pulled back messy, eyes tired and bright at the same time. She looked older than me in that moment, not because she was, but because she carried more visible weight. Her gaze landed on me. For a second, her face didn't change. Then her mouth twitched, and she exhaled a laugh that sounded like it was squeezed out of her against her will. "You look ridiculous," she said. "Thank you," I said, voice thick. Then her laugh died and her eyes filled, quick and angry. "Also said, you look like you're being held hostage." "That's accurate," I said. Mom stepped forward, hands hovering again like she didn't know how to touch her own daughter without permission. "Maris." Maris's eyes flicked to Mom. "Hi." Dad's voice was tight. "Where have you been?" Maris didn't even look at him. "Away." Dad's jaw clenched. "This is what I mean. You can't just leave." Maris turned then, eyes flashing. I did, and you're still standing here acting like the problem is my timing." Mom's voice broke. "We missed you." Maris's face softened for a fraction. "I know, that's why it hurts." The room was full of things that never got said because we were too busy arranging ourselves into something presentable. Elska cleared her throat gently. "Hi, Maris. I'm Elska. I'm the photographer." Maris nodded at her. "Sorry for the chaos." Elska smiled lightly. "It's okay. Do you want to see what we've done so far?" Maris hesitated. Her gaze flicked to me again, to the dress. There was something in her eyes that looked almost like relief, but it was buried under irritation. "Yeah," she said. "I do." Elska turned her laptop toward us. Mom moved beside Maris, close but not touching. Dad stood behind them, arms crossed like he needed something to do with himself. I stepped up too, the dress brushing my legs as I moved. Elska clicked through the photos. The first few were the attempted reenactment. They looked wrong, too stiff, too forced. Mom's smile brittle, Dad's posture harsh, me in the dress looking like I wanted to disappear. Maris stared at those and her mouth tightened. "So that's what you wanted." Mom whispered, "We thought it would..." Maris cut in, voice sharp. "Bring me back? Make me behave? Make me fit?" Mom flinched, tears rising again. Elska clicked to the newer shots. The one with the old photo in Mom's hands, the empty space, Dad's stubborn face, my hand on the bench. The gap on the bench looked like a wound and a promise at the same time. Maris's breath caught. She stared at the screen for a long time without speaking. Dad shifted, uncomfortable. "Well?" Maris finally spoke, voice quieter. "That one's real." Mom's breath shuddered. "You don't hate it?" Maris glanced at her. Hate that it had to come to this, but no. "I don't hate it." Dad's voice was gruff. "It looks like something's missing." Maris turned to him slowly. "Yes." Dad's face reddened. "That's not what I meant." Maris's eyes didn't soften. "It's exactly what you meant. You want a photo that doesn't show the mess. You want a photo where I'm smiling because you told me to." Dad's jaw clenched. "I want my family together." Maris's voice rose, raw. "Then stop trying to glue us into old shapes." Silence again. Dad's hands clenched. Mom's tears spilled freely now. I couldn't stand it. I stepped forward, the dress making the movement feel both absurd and brave. "Maris," I said, voice trembling, "I didn't do this to replace you." Maris looked at me and her expression shifted, the anger softening just enough to let something else through. "I know," she said. "That's why I came back." Mom let out a broken sound. "Oh, honey," Maris looked at Mom. "Don't make this about guilt, please." Mom nodded frantically. Okay. Elska watched us with the calm focus of someone who knew when to let a moment happen. "Do you want to be in the photo?" Elska asked Maris gently. "No pressure. We can do a separate one. Or we can keep the space." Maris stared at the screen again. Then she looked at the bench, the gap. Her voice was quiet. I want to be in it, but not like before. Dad's head snapped up. Then how? Maris took a breath. I sit in my space, but I'm not wearing the dress. Martin is. Because that's the truth of today. And you two don't pretend everything's fine. You just sit. Mom's eyes widened. You want Martin to keep wearing it? Maris's gaze flicked to me. Do you want to keep wearing it? I opened my mouth, closed it, then forced myself to be honest. I don't want to, but I can. And I think it matters. Dad looked like he might explode. This is insane. Maris turned on him, eyes blazing. No, insane is you thinking you can fix me with a frame. Dad's face went white, then red. He looked at Mom as if asking her to take his side. Mom didn't. She just looked tired and scared and strangely present. We can do it, Mom whispered. Dad stared at her. Nina. Mom's voice shook, but she held it. Gerard, please, just once, not your way. Dad's jaw worked. He looked at Maris, then at me, then at the empty space that wouldn't stop being visible. He exhaled hard, like surrender tasted bitter. Fine. Maris's shoulders dropped slightly, like she'd been bracing for a fight and was shocked the fight didn't come. Elska moved quickly again, guiding us into place. Mom sat on the bench first, then Dad leaving the gap. Maris stepped forward, then sat in the gap with a slow deliberateness, like she was reclaiming territory. She didn't smile. She didn't perform. She just sat, shoulders slightly hunched, hands resting on her knees. I stood beside the bench, still in the dress, feeling exposed and strangely steady. Elska adjusted angles, then stepped behind the camera. Okay, this is not about recreating. This is about recording. Mom's eyes filled, but she didn't wipe them. Dad's face was tight, but his gaze stayed forward. Maris looked into the lens, expression fierce and tired and real. I looked into the lens too. Elska clicked. Then she said softly, Now Nina, put your hand on Maris's shoulder if she allows it. Mom's hand hovered. Maris didn't move away. She didn't lean in either. She just let Mom's hand land, light and trembling, like a first touch after a long winter. Elska clicked. Gerard, Elska said gently, look at your kids. Dad's eyes shifted. He looked at Maris first, and something in his face cracked, just a hairline fracture. Then he looked at me, at the dress, at the absurdity and honesty of it. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. Elska clicked. Maris, Elska said, look at Martin. Maris turned her head, eyes softening as they met mine. Thank you, she mouthed without sound. My throat tightened. I nodded. Elska clicked. Then Elska lowered the camera and smiled, small and sincere. That's the one. We stayed in place for a moment longer, like moving would break the spell. Finally, Mom let out a shaky breath and laughed through tears. Oh my God. Maris rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth lifted. Yeah, oh my God. Dad stared at the floor, then rubbed his face hard like he was wiping off a mask he didn't want anyone to see. I stepped back, hand gripping the bench for balance. The dress suddenly felt heavy again, the zipper tight at my ribs. Elska looked at us. Do you want to see? We gathered around the laptop again. Elska pulled up the final shot. There we were, Mom with tear tracks and a hand on Maris's shoulder. Dad looking like a man caught between pride and fear. Maris sitting in her space, not smiling, not performing, just present. Me standing beside them in the blue dress, not pretending to be my sister, not hiding my discomfort, just there, proof that something had shifted. The photo didn't look like the old portrait. It looked like a family telling the truth for the first time in a long time. Mom covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. Maris's eyes shone, but she didn't cry. She just stared, as if she was memorizing it. Dad's voice was rough. We look broken. Maris didn't look at him when she answered. We look honest. Dad's shoulders sagged. For a moment, he looked older, not like a man losing control, but like a man finally noticing the damage control had caused. Mom whispered, "It's the most us we've been in years." I stared at the image, my stomach twisting with a mix of humiliation and relief. Maris finally looked at me. "Are you okay?" I swallowed. "Ask me after I get out of this dress." Maris let out a real laugh then, short and bright. Fair. Mom stepped toward me, hands hovering again. "Martin, thank you. I'm sorry." I looked at her. "Sorry for what part?" Mom flinched, then exhaled. "Sorry for trying to make you both fit into something I can hang on a wall. Sorry for holding on too tight." I nodded slowly. I didn't say it was okay because it wasn't. Not fully. But her words mattered. Dad cleared his throat and we all turned because when Dad speaks after silence, it's usually either an order or an explosion. His voice came out low. "Maris." Maris's posture stiffened. Dad looked at her and his eyes were shiny in a way that made me uncomfortable, like seeing a private side of him. "I didn't know how to talk to you," he said, rough. "I still don't, but I don't want you gone." Maris stared at him for a long time. Then she nodded once. "Then stop making home a place I have to perform." Dad swallowed. "I'll try." It wasn't a grand apology. It wasn't tidy, but it was more than we usually got. Maris's shoulders eased slightly. "Okay." Elska quietly began packing her gear, giving us space. Before she left, she looked at me and said softly, "You did something brave today." I wanted to reject the word brave. I wanted to say I just followed the script, but the script had changed, and I had helped push it. "Thanks," I said, voice hoarse. After Elska left, the house felt quieter, like the air had been rearranged. Mom went to the kitchen to make tea because making tea is her way of handling anything that might otherwise require sitting still with feelings. Dad lingered in the living room, staring at the bench as if it had betrayed him. Maris stayed near me, arms crossed, eyes flicking over the dress again. "I can't believe they asked you," she said, voice low. "I can't believe I said yes," I admitted. Maris studied me. "Why did you?" I hesitated. Then I shrugged, honest. Because Mom looked like she was falling apart, and because Dad made it sound like a duty, and because I didn't want to be the one who ruined it. Maris's expression softened. "You didn't ruin it." I let out a shaky laugh. "I feel like I did." Maris shook her head. "No, you exposed it. That's different." I looked down at the dress again. "I hated wearing it." Maris's mouth twitched. "Yeah, it's not exactly comfortable, is it?" "It's tight," I muttered, "and I keep feeling like everyone can see my thoughts." Maris let out a quiet laugh. "Welcome to being perceived." I glanced at her. "Is that what it's like for you? Here?" Her face went still, then she nodded, small. "Sometimes. Like they're always looking at me and seeing the version they want. Not me." I swallowed. "I'm sorry," Maris shrugged. "It's not your fault." "It kind of is," I said. "I go along with it too." Maris stared at me. "You go along because you're trying to keep peace." "Yeah," I said. "And because I'm scared if I don't, everything falls apart." Maris's gaze softened. "Things are already falling apart. You're just trying to catch pieces alone." That hit me hard. Mom called from the kitchen, voice shaky. "Tea's ready." Maris rolled her eyes affectionately. "Of course it is." We went into the kitchen. Dad followed slowly, like he wasn't sure he was invited. We sat around the table with mugs that were too hot to hold properly. Mom kept wiping her cheeks like she was embarrassed to have cried. Dad stared into his tea like it contained instructions. Maris sat with her legs tucked under her chair, posture guarded but present. I sat in the dress, feeling ridiculous in the most domestic setting possible. Finally, Maris broke the silence. "You're not hanging the old reenactment, right?" Mom shook her head quickly. No, we'll hang the honest one." Dad's jaw tightened. "It's still unusual." Maris tilted her head. "So what?" Dad looked at her, then at me. He hesitated, then said, voice quieter, "People will ask questions." I took a breath. "Then let them." Dad's eyes narrowed, but there was less fire now. "You say that because you don't care what people think." I surprised myself by answering honestly. "I do care. I'm tired of living like their opinions pay our mortgage." Maris snorted into her mug. Mom laughed through a sniffle. Even Dad's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Mom reached out and rested her hand on mine, then hesitated like she was asking permission, and I didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," she said again, quieter. "I wanted that old photo back because it felt safe. But safe doesn't mean true." Maris's gaze softened. "I can't be your nostalgia project." Mom nodded quickly. I know. Dad cleared his throat. "And I can't be the villain." Maris looked at him. "Then don't be." Dad's face tightened. "That's not how it works." Maris's voice was steady. "It can." Dad stared at the table for a long time. Then, barely audible, he said, "Okay." It was the closest thing to surrender I'd ever heard from him. After tea, I finally went upstairs to get out of the dress. My hands shook as I unzipped it, as if the zipper sound might summon arguments again. When the fabric slid off, I felt both lighter and strangely empty, like I'd been holding something heavy and now my arms didn't know what to do. I folded the dress carefully, not because it was sacred, but because it had earned respect in a weird way. When I came back downstairs, Maris was in the living room, sitting on the bench alone, staring at the spot where she'd sat for the photo. She looked up when I entered. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she replied. I sat beside her, leaving a small space between us without thinking. Then I noticed and laughed quietly. Maris raised an eyebrow. "We leaving visible gaps now?" "Apparently," I said. She stared at the bench again. "I thought I'd be angry seeing you in it." I nodded. "And?" Maris's mouth tightened. I was, for a second. But then I realized it wasn't about you. It was about them trying to avoid dealing with me. I swallowed. I didn't want to be used against you. Maris looked at me. "You weren't. You were used by them." "That's different." I frowned. "That's not better." "No," Maris agreed, "but it means I don't have to fight you." I exhaled, relief sharp enough to hurt. Maris leaned back, head against the wall. When I saw that photo on the laptop, the one with the gap, I felt, I don't know, like someone finally admitted I mattered enough to be missed instead of replaced. I nodded slowly. "You do matter." Maris glanced at me, eyes soft. "You too." I looked down at my hands. It's weird. Being in the dress felt awful, but also for a second, it felt like I had permission to not be the easy one. Maris's mouth twitched. "Good, stop being the easy one." I laughed. "That's terrifying advice." "Yeah," she said, "but it's right." Dad's footsteps sounded in the hallway. He paused in the doorway like he wasn't sure he belonged in this softer moment. Maris's posture stiffened slightly. Dad cleared his throat. "The photo," he said, voice rough. "When do we get it?" Maris stared at him. "Soon, I guess." Dad nodded, then hesitated. "Maris, I'm glad you're home. Maris studied him for a long beat, then she nodded once. Me too, for now. Dad swallowed, as if for now was both a warning and a gift. Okay. He left again, footsteps slower this time. Maris exhaled. He's going to struggle. I know, I said. She glanced at me. So are we. I nodded. We sat on the bench in silence, not the weaponized kind, but the kind where you can hear the house settling and know nobody is pretending it's not cracked. A week later, the framed photo arrived. Mom hung it in the hallway where the old portrait used to be, right at eye level, impossible to ignore. The first time I walked past it, I stopped. Maris stood beside me, arms crossed, chewing her lip. Mom hovered behind us, anxious. Dad lingered in the doorway, pretending he was just passing by. The photo stared back at us with quiet honesty. Mom's hand trembled as she touched the frame. It's beautiful. Dad grunted. It's something. Maris snorted. High praise. Dad shot her a look, but it wasn't as sharp as usual. It tells the truth. Maris blinked, surprised. Mom's breath caught. I stared at the image and felt my throat tighten. The truth, captured in one rectangle. Not neat, not pretty in the traditional way, but ours. Maris nudged my shoulder lightly. Thanks for stepping in. I glanced at her. Thanks for stepping back in. Mom wiped her cheeks again, pretending she had dust in her eye. Dad shifted awkwardly, like he didn't know what to do with the weight of a moment that wasn't staged. And then, somehow we all walked away down the hallway together, not fixed, not healed in some dramatic way, but real and present and finally facing the same direction. The photo stayed on the wall behind us, the most honest family image we'd ever had.
Did you like the story? Hit that like button and tell me what you thought in the comments. Do you want to hear more stories? Subscribe and hit the bell. For exclusive content and early access, check out our Patreon. You can find the link in the description, or you can watch any of the videos shown on my right. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.